Well, I'm not really sure where I want to start, so I'm just going to jump right in and see where this journey takes me. Hello and welcome to 1 in 20 D&D. I'm Gregory, and this is my next recap for the VÄRLDEN Reach. This is for session 23. Now, in our last session, we had begun infiltrating the Temple of Ayuz within the city of Handel. And at the end of the session, we had this very challenging fight with Rodrigo, the head priest of the temple, who we were trying to figure out what the heck he was up to. So at the beginning of this session, we were kind of like collecting our thoughts, getting ourselves together. Jermaine basically confessed to the group, like, hey, if I ever see Rodrigo again, I'm going to kill that bastard. Because he really didn't like the fact that he was dominated and made to functionally kill Lily. Of course, she didn't die, but that's sort of kind of how Jermaine felt in the moment. Like, he stabbed her and watched her, get taken down, and tried to attack Pyre in the same way, and one way or the other, he did not like being controlled and manipulated. Of course, he is a bard and can do some of those things himself, so there's probably a little bit of a, how should I say, a little bit of a double standard there, I suppose. But perhaps we'll talk more about that in the future. So this, I guess, is the session in which we, let's see, fight a treasure golem, get arrested, get out of jail, and then, have a conversation with Marana? So, kind of a lot happened in this session. It was pretty intense, and I mean, we started off by trying to talk to Selmac, Rodrigo's aide, and see if we could get any information from him. It turns out we surmise, or kind of we figured out that it seems like on some level Rodrigo has been manipulating him and messing with probably his memory. In game terms, probably used like alter memory or some such. And so the poor guy is kind of, I want to say terrified. That might be a little bit too strong of a word. He's afraid of Rodrigo on some level. Intimidated by Rodrigo is probably a better way to say it. And he seems like just a dupe. Like he's got a job and that's all that he really cares about. And yeah, Rodrigo's not the best person in the world, but at least it's a job, and hey, he's the head of the temple, right? So that's got to count for something. So we don't get much out of Selmac and decide that we don't want to leave. Now, we got the journals, of course, Rodrigo's journals, his ledgers, which basically are pretty damning. They more or less show that he's been cooking the books, and functionally it's I don't know if you want to call it a racket, if he's like racketeering or something like this, but essentially he's laundering money or some such thing and helping other people, other wealthy people in the city do that, including Marana's adopted parents, we come to find out. So there's well, I guess we kind of knew that already. I mean, Marana pretty much told that to us already. So so we fight this treasure. Okay, I want to step back up. I have to say right out of the gate here, I know I already did a little bit of an intro, but before I really get into any more of the details, I just want to say that from my perspective, this session, the MVP was totally Morgan. I felt like she totally shined in this session. Everybody was great as always. Every week is just better than the last. And in this session, I was just thrilled because in the fight with the golem, Perdita is ostensibly our tank, right? She's our meat shield, unless Jermaine has transformed into his giant ape, and that helps him just soak up damage as well, as long as he can maintain concentration. However, in this case, she is the big shiny target and the shield of the group. So she jumped right into the fray and basically got just devastated, like right out of the gate by this golem. It hit like with a critical hit right off the bat, and she got taken down, I think, twice in the battle, which was, of course, we're all concerned about. Lily, I think, went down in this battle as well. Or was it Pyre or Lily? Now I'm forgetting. I think it was Lily. Uh, and so it was a really kind of challenging combat for us, which was fun. I mean, it's always fun when it's not a total, when you don't blow through like goblins or something, and you're actually struggling and afraid that you might not actually, or someone might not survive the fight or whatever. That is way more exciting. So it was pretty crazy and cool. I guess. Oh yeah, it was Pyre, because when Pyre went down, she also lost her weapon. Her gun got like caught up in the whirlwind of this crazy treasure golem. It started spinning around and did this like whirlwind attack against us. And anyway, that was crazy. When we defeated the golem, the coolest thing about it was that we found this amazing armor as a breastplate, like for the champion of IUs. Which of course, was perfect for Lily, and she took that, of course, to start. And then things happened later where she had a conversation with T, and she kind of feels guilty about killing Selmac. And even though he didn't die, we actually we brought him back from being dead. He was really functionally unconscious, and we helped him back to life and tried to, Jermaine healed him, and we tried to talk to him and whatever. But and she even actually, I'm getting ahead of myself now. So we got we kill we defeat this treasure golem, get all the coins. We're ready to leave the temple, and who is there to greet us at the door on the way out but Rodrigo with his two goons, which are, of course, Marana's parents' bodyguards, and then the city guard. So we tried to like sneak out or get past him, or Marana's like, it was me, I'm guilty, I did it. And Jermaine is like, oh shit, and tried to cast invisibility on the group, and the guards are like, yeah, well, we're taking you in, stop talking, and this kind of thing. And then freaking Rodrigo dispelled the illusion or the invisibility, so they got all of us and they took us to jail. And again, when we're talking to the magistrate, Marana was hysterical. TBQ kept cracking jokes as Marana the whole night, and some of them were quite hysterical. And then in the same vein, when we were in talking to the magistrate, Marana was handling it very nicely in the way she was kind of like, she kept pointing the finger at Rodrigo, which was kind of cool. And like, rather than us being put on trial, it was almost like Rodrigo was being put on trial indirectly, which was super cool. And then the reason I feel like Perdita was so awesome in this too was the way that Morgan had Marana. I'm sorry, the way that Morgan had Perdita speaking to the magistrate was so like respectful and proper and eloquent. It was just brilliant. It was so juicy. I really like every time Morgan. I keep fumbling the words here, the names. Every time Morgan had Perdita say something to the magistrate, I was like hanging on every word. Just the way she spoke to the magistrate was awesome to me. And so to Gregory. Now, I just really dug that. And so the magistrate was interesting because she's like, so, why the heck are you even here? And Rodrigo's like, oh, they stole something, and they killed someone, and so she's trying to get to the bottom of it. And we think we're going to be okay because we stuffed the journals in the bag of holding, and we're like, yeah, they'll be safe there. And we're like, hey, we've got nothing to hide. Go ahead, search us. We don't have anything. And then she has her guards just pull the bag of holding inside out, which, if you don't know, that dumps the contents everywhere. And we had either not known or forgotten. I think I knew that, but forgot as a player. I probably just totally, it slipped my mind. So we just assumed that our characters didn't know this information. So they dump all the contents out and like, oh, what are these? So there's 4 books. There's the 3 journals or ledgers and our Book of Vater, which they didn't really seem to care about. So the magistrate takes a look at these books and she's like, I need some time to review these. And Rodrigo is like, he's freaking out right now. At the same time, we're in with the magistrate, and first, Marana's former adoptive parents, well, they've disowned her, so I'm not sure how to exactly. The Renyus, let's say the Renyus come in, and they're 2 bodyguards. And that makes the magistrate like, oh, great, it's a show. And that's pretty much what happens next is Roanna comes in. We don't really know much about Roanna. We've heard her name maybe or not. I'm not sure exactly. The players have all heard the name. I'm not sure which of the characters have heard the name. But we still kind of really don't know that much about her at this point. And so she comes in and she's like, oh, I'm here for the show, because if the Renyus are here and Rodrigo's here, something's going down. So, and poor Marana is like, she's trying not to, she's like staring at the magistrate. She's like face front to the magistrate. She is not, she's ignoring her parent or adoptive parents. She's ignoring Roanna and is just like, yeah, down to business. The magistrate looks through the journals. She's like, I need some more time to look at these. So they put us in a cell and basically leave our equipment with us because we're just being held at the moment. So they take our weapons but leave our equipment. Perdita writes a message to Crag, and in the journal it says, here's what's going on. We confronted Rodrigo this morning. We fought the treasure golem. We found the evidence we were looking for, and now we're in jail. Or P.S. we're in jail. I'm kidding. That's Gregory being silly. But functionally that's what we ended up telling Crag is we're having a little bit of trouble, and anyway, this is the situation. Now, when we got in front of the magistrate, one of the interesting little character dynamics, Lily basically was trying to confess the whole thing. I did it. It was all me. I killed the guy and this and that. Marana was also doing the same thing, trying to so Marana's trying to be all noble and protect the group. Lily's trying to be all noble and protect the group. And of course, neither one of them was successful in this, but it was interesting, the different motivations. I feel like Lily kind of sort of did a little bit out of guilt, but also, I'm not sure how Tracy felt like why she was having Lily do that, but that's how it sort of seemed in the moment. And of course, Marana pretty much told us, TBQ had Marana tell the group at one point later on in the session that while we were in the cell, she basically said to Lily, like, why the heck did you do that? I've been arrested here, and, why do you need to take the fall? I was trying to take the fall or something like this. Anyway, it's interesting. So we kind of all keep to ourselves in the jail cell. We try to comfort Lily a little bit because she's like hanging her head. She's in chains again, which freaks her out a little bit, I think, or makes her depressed a little, I guess is probably a better way to say it. And lo and behold, we're in there a couple hours, 3 hours or something, and who comes in but Crag and Elder Torrent? So they, I guess, teleported or something like this to Handle because they got some information from us and figured that their presence might help us out. Talked to the magistrate, came downstairs to get us out to try to resolve the issue. So the whole group goes back upstairs in front of the magistrate, and between Well, essentially, the magistrate asks us a few more questions about the whole thing and says, like, because Elder Tehran has spoken so highly of you, Lily, I'm going to let this slide this one time. He's gonna take responsibility for you, and uh, you're basically, and then she arrests the Renus and turns Rodrigo over to Elder Tehran and Crag to bring back to Unity, to discipline him or do something with him. And we didn't notice it when we first got upstairs, but there was like kind of a small retinue of others from Unity, some like acolytes and lesser priests from Unity. One of which was like the assistant to the clinic, and she's gonna take over running the clinic. And another one was like one of I guess Torren's, kind of like one of the next in line or something in the church, or somehow like this. Somebody Elder Tehran trusts. So he's gonna run the temple here in Handle now, and so they're gonna have someone in handling the temple, someone and starting up a clinic, and try to rebuild the temple in Handle and make it what it's supposed to be. And so that's cool. So all the treasure that we grabbed from Rodrigo basically goes to help fund the repairs and what have you, and get that started. We got to keep some of the treasure, some of the magic items, the like artifacts and the breastplate, and we're on our way out. And Elder Tehran T wants to talk to Lily, and she has some words with Lily. It's kind of like, she's like, I know you're. What did she say? I forget exactly what she said. Or you're angry with me or something like that. And to which T is like, no, I'm disappointed. And it's like it's just your outbursts. It's okay to be angry. It's not okay to blast someone with sacred fire, someone innocent functionally with sacred fire. So poor Lily was, a little bit reprimanded. And at the same time, T kind of told her what this armor, what this breastplate was, what it represented, and that he thinks she should wear it. And then we all kind of go back to the inn, and she's like, I'm not wearing this. Now, another important thing that happened on the way out of the jail, I guess, out of the audience with the magistrate, Jermaine tried to crack a joke. There was some tension between Roanna and Morana, and Jermaine didn't quite understand it. So, and again, he is, he's in the military for all these years. He's a little bit crass. He's kind of used to like ribbing his kind of like teammates and so forth, like a little bit of jesting and kind of teasing each other and whatever. So he cracks a joke with Marana, like he's like, former lover, he says to her, and she just like bristled. She was like, that was the wrong thing to say. So on the way back to the inn, I had Jermaine kind of like very formally like walk up to Marana, like really formally and sincerely, like kind of like bow to her and, like, please accept my apology. I made a very grave misjudgment, and in my attempt at light-hearted humor, I may have said something really offensive and didn't mean to at all. And now Marana was like, she's like about to say something in response, and then like kind of catches herself, and she's like, back at the inn, we'll talk. To which Jermaine is kind of like, okay. So he just shuts up, and they all walk back to the inn. And Lily and Pyre had already started heading out, so it was kind of like, Jermaine's had this word with Marana, and then Perdita and Jermaine and Marana walk to the inn. So everybody gets to the inn. Nobody wants to stay down in like the common room. So, well, Jermaine would have been fine with it, but the others are like, they're not into being around other people at the time. So we go upstairs to Marana's room and have dinner brought upstairs to Marana's room. And we I'm almost beside myself. We actually have a conversation with Marana. We finally get some juicy backstory from Marana. She kind of tells us like a little bit about what happened, and it was what was fun, what was beautiful about this for me as a player was that when we got in the room, Marana was giving Lily a little bit of a hard time. And Lily was they were talking about like, it's silly, it's ridiculous to be, you don't need to sacrifice yourself, and your noble sacrifice or whatever you were trying to do was unjust, was unnecessary since I was already trying to take the fall. And Lily got a little indignant about it, and like efficacing, is that self-effacing? That's what I'm trying to say. Self-effacing and kind of like flagellating herself verbally. And Marana was like, "Does that help? Speaking even crappier about yourself, does that make you feel better? Does that solve anything? Is that healing people or helping people?" And Lily basically had enough, and she just left. She got pissed or whatever and took off, walked out, went downstairs to the tavern room. Perdita followed her, and Pyre, like a moment or two later, I guess, went outside. Maybe she felt like there was like some stuff going on between the group that she maybe wasn't really a part of or whatever. And anyway, she went outside. Perdita went downstairs. Lily kind of went down and sat at the bar, and then realized like she doesn't have any gold on her, so she can't even buy a drink. But Perdita sits down and buys her a drink, and they chat like a little bit. Again, it was just it was pretty neat. And then at the end of that conversation, Lily just like says, "Look, I need to, can I go for a walk? Is it all right if I go for a walk, Mom?" Because of course, Perdita is the group mom apparently, and I think I've touched on that before. Jermaine is, on some level, seems to be big brother or dad or something, and yeah, like the definitely Perdita is the moral compass of the group. There's no question about that, and we love that about her. So Perdita, Perdita's like, of course, and she comes back upstairs. Now, in the meantime, when the room cleared out, Jermaine actually started having just like his first actual real, like, just genuine person-to-person conversation with Marana, and it was awesome. She kind of explained what was going on and who Rowana was, so we got some of the backstory. So juicy stuff. So Alina and Marana were the angel and the devil in the Renu family. They were both adopted, and they were basically put on display. And we finally, this is like, the players have known this for a while, but now like Jermaine and Perdita got a little bit of this, but now it's kind of coming out of like, he's starting to understand the bigger picture. And she shared with us that they were put on, and he kind of inferred some things and was kind of reading some in between the lines of a lot of the things that she was saying. She was supposed to be this innocent angel doll and put on display for everyone, and Alina was, the devil, and who can imagine what that means and how she was treated. And they were trying to get out, and Alina thought that we don't know all the details, but essentially Alina was trying to steal something from Rowana, I guess, and get both Marana and Alina out of the city and out of the Renu's house. It kind of backfired. Alina left with her boyfriend, left Marana to take the fall, I guess, or something. One way or another, Marana got arrested and for thievery, and then spent 3 years in jail. And this is kind of where I think Marana, like, her personality changed. This is Gregory. I'm Gregory. Probably Jermaine is imagining some of this too. I think that's probably how I'll play it. But for sure, Gregory thinks that. So Marana she grew up in this kind of sheltered life, put on display. We heard several sessions back from Nero, the bard that Jermaine is friends with, that he was like, well, you used to be so much fun, the light of the party, and entertaining and dancing and all this. So I think that was Marana before jail, and then now we see Marana like kind of after jail and after the harsh reality of existence kind of slammed her in the face. I think that's my summation of what happened. And so, and she shared just a little bit of like, that's who this woman was. And of course, Jermaine is like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make light of it. It was just a stupid, foolish thing to say. And he's just being the best listener he can be. And then he asked, and of course, the quips. He's like, "Can I ask you a question?" To which, of course, Marana's like, "Well, it's never, is it going to stop you if I say no or whatever?" I mean, it was one of these kind of running jokes that happens throughout all of our role play. But Jermaine asked a little bit about her, but shifted gears a little bit. I want Jermaine to get to know Marana. And it was a wonderful, and TBQ told me after the fact that it was, she appreciated it because it was a wonderful chance for her to finally get a little bit of her backstory out without it being pulling teeth. It was actually this really nice organic flow. Jermaine actually switched gears rather than talking about the current situation and all those bad memories. Like, he could see it was making her uncomfortable. And I don't know, I mean, I hope that translated in the game, but that's where Gregory was playing Jermaine at, was that like, Marana's not, she's talking about this, but she's reluctant to talk about it. So he asked her about Ku. When did you meet Ku? Because he had asked her about like, well, you went to jail for 3 years. When did you learn to be a ranger? And she said, well, she met this dwarf. He taught her to be a tracker and a bounty hunter. And that's what she did for a while because she wanted to find her sister. She became, humanoids became her favorite enemy so that she could track and find her sister. So that's how she learned her skills. And then then Jermaine switched. That was still making her a little uncomfortable, I think. She was talking about it, which was great, but at the same time, it still felt like she was a little resistant talking about the past. So Jermaine switched gears and asked about Ku. How did you find Ku? And so then we got this wonderful conversation about how she met Ku. And so here we had this moment where Jermaine started talking with Marana. Perdita came back, finished talking with Lily, came back upstairs, and kind of just had this beautiful little moment where she made a little response to something that was said in the conversation, which brought her into the conversation beautifully, which, again, Morgan is such a fantastic role player. It was just so nicely timed, and she joined the conversation. So the three of them are kind of sitting there and just getting to know each other. And it was awesome. And so at the end of this conversation, while that conversation is happening, I got to say this. So Lily goes to take a walk. Pyre sees Lily going to take a walk and basically is, Lily notices her and is like, you can walk with me if you want, or something like that. So the two ladies decide they're going to try to find the water. She's like, you want to walk to the river? And Lily's like, yeah. Pyre's like, okay, but I don't know where it is. Which is hysterical. Again, it's just brilliant role playing. Everybody in this group is so awesome and so fun to enjoy the quips and dialogue and the interactions and the character choices that everyone makes for their character. I love this stuff. So they go and they chat, they talk, they kind of, they sort of understand each other because they're both kind of explosive. Pyre, quite literally, she's a fire genasi. She's actually on fire. And Lily, because of her choices, because of the way she, expresses her intense emotions. And so they kind of understand each other on some level. And so they have this talk. And, Pyre, one thing I really appreciated was that Courtney had Pyre say that, she felt like Jermaine would have been justified if he did end up killing Rodrigo. And that Lily shouldn't feel bad about what she did. She didn't really do anything wrong. So it was really cool conversations. Again, just such great role playing. So that happened while Marana and Perdita and Jermaine are talking back at the inn. And kind of at the end, so Jermaine is just like he had a freaking roller coaster on this day. It's only been a day. It's like from last session to this session, it's only been one day. But he went from being taken over by Rodrigo, nearly killing someone who he has come to care very dearly about and would, Well, I'll tell you that in a moment. He very dearly cares about everyone in the group. He almost killed Lily. He tried to kill Pyre, and then they go and they fight this treasure golem. Jermaine used one of his new abilities, which is greater invisibility, and gave that to Lily to try to protect her because he doesn't want to see her fall again. Then he watches Perdita go down twice. Then they get arrested, which he's like, I've been arrested before. It's not the first time. I figure he's, he had his party days or whatever. So Jermaine's not, I'm sure he went out cavorting one night and got too drunk or something and spent the night in the drunk tank. But he's never been like accused of murder or thievery or any of this. So it's a little bit like crazy for him. But at the same time, he's just dealing with it. So then he like the pièce de résistance, he just totally fails with trying to crack a joke with Marana. So it's like his day went from bad to worse to worse to worse. But then they get back to the inn and it totally turns around because now he has this like incredible conversation with Marana and Perdita when she joins the group. So the three of them have this phenomenal conversation and it just keeps lightening his mood. He loved hearing about how she met Ku. So and just getting to understand this like woman who's totally confused him. So I ended the session with him expressing one of his so we have in D&D 5e we have personality traits, right? We have traits, flaws, ideals, bonds. So I've tried to play Jermaine to express those things in a very organic way. Well, in this one, I said good evening, good night to Perdita and Marana by getting up and I was just smiling. I had said a little bit earlier. I said Jermaine is kind of just sitting there, very very softly having this conversation, very warmly, and he's just kind of got like a slight smile. He's enjoying hearing Marana tell her tale because he loves stories. He loves telling stories. He loves hearing stories. He gets up and he's kind of in this sort of introspective moment, and he gets up and he says something to the effect like, when Xavier died, Xavier is Jermaine's best friend that brought him into the military. They were like buddies and homeboys, and then Xavier died in their first major battle and Jermaine couldn't save him. So Jermaine said, when Xavier died, he said, I must have done something somewhere to make myself incredibly fortunate or lucky, because when Xavier died, I never would have imagined that I would have companions like that again. Someone who I absolutely trusted and respected beyond anything I can imagine. And I've been blessed with 4. And he said, at the very least 2, to which, of course, they ribbed me again about not including Ku. Which is... Gregory, keep getting dug about that, which is hysterical every single time. I don't mean to ignore Ku, obviously. And so... But I said, Jermaine said, I feel like I've been blessed that I've gained such amazing companions. And he said, I care dearly for each of you. And if it came down to it, I would lay down my life for each of you, or I would go to jail for the rest of my life for each of you. And he kind of, and then I kind of said, good night and went to bed. And this was me, the player. This was Gregory's way of expressing Jermaine's bond, I think it is. Because that is that he feels that the people that fight alongside you are worth dying for. Okay? So that's where I was at with Jermaine at the end of the session. So you guys my friends, you may have not realized that, but that was what I was playing into that dialogue, into that conversation. And so this is why it was so juicy and wonderful. we got to see Marana's a little bit about Marana's backstory. We asked her a little bit about the wings and her being an Aasimar, which Morgan knows. Sorry, not Morgan. Perdita, Morgan's character Perdita, knows a little bit about the Aasimar. She read about it at the Lyceum. So we're like, well, do you want to know about your parents? And she's like, no, either they're dead or they didn't want me. So either way, I don't really care. She's okay with being an orphan, which I think is super cool. Great choice. And then we found out this stuff about her, becoming a ranger and about how she met Ku and so forth. So we had this beautiful expose or reveal, let's call it reveal, about Marana's backstory. Jermaine got to express one of his character traits. Perdita was just like she's so regimented, and I love it. And she the way she communicates with every one of the players and characters, as well as the NPCs, when she interacts with the NPCs, it's just so cool. And then we had this, emotional roller coaster for Lily, and poor Pyre is just kind of like, she's kind of along for the ride, and she's playing a key role. We've given her one of these jewelry pieces that we had, so she can now telepathically communicate with us, because we're like, we keep getting put in these life and death situations. You need to be able to talk with us. You need to be able. It's sort of these like baby steps towards actually getting her on the team and becoming a member of the Vactair, maybe. So Pyre's just like, she's cool. She plays this kind of wallflower on a lot of what Courtney plays her as, this sort of this wallflower. But then it's like she'll come in and say these brilliant things at just the right moment, and she's really providing, I think, something that Lily needed. Perdita has tried doing this as well. Again, we just saw Lily and Marana starting to bond again, but there's this really beautiful friendship developing between Pyre and Lily. It's important. It's super important. I think it'll be really important for helping Lily heal. She's only been, she was a slave for 27 years. She's damaged goods. She's a wreck, and she's doing her best, but it's a challenge for her. And it's powerful choices make really awesome role playing. So bravo everyone in the game. I am just exhausted from this journey through my thoughts and memories, and what a great session. So much fun. Hooray, we got some fun backstory from Marana, and got to see each of our players have a good moment in this session. And of course, our fabulous DM playing all the other roles and playing them beautifully, and stitching together an incredible story. Wow. Thank you for stopping in. Thank you for listening to all this, and I hope it was meaningful. This was one of the this session to me was a meaningful session, and that's what I took away from it more than anything. Now, before I close, I know it's a little bit long today, but hey, this was a good one and totally worth it. I actually have 2 quotes that I want to share from this session, because they were choice quotes. One was actually from our DM, who was speaking as the magistrate of Handel and talking to Rodrigo, and said, and I think it was missed. I think most of us in the moment, it was kind of like one of those things that went under the radar, what he said. He said to Rodrigo, accounting books, large ego? You're worried about accounting books? And I thought I heard it the first in the game when he said it, and I'm like, nah, he couldn't have said that. But then when I went back and listened to the recording and confirmed that he called Rodrigo large ego, I freaking died laughing. So bravo, Mark. That was brilliant. That's absolutely awesome. And this other one was something that, and for the life of me right this moment, I can't remember who she shared this with. I think it was in the jail cell. She shared it with all of us, or at the in Marana's room, she shared it with us. But Perdita shared with us, she said that Crag once told me, we prepare for glory by failing until we don't. That's cool. So those were two good ones for me this time. Those were two high points of the game. So a couple quotes to end this with. What a session. Thank you for stopping by for this video. And as always, see you at a table someday. Keep rolling 20s. Have fun. And keep rolling 20s.